Good afternoon, everybody. It is Tuesday, June 10th, 2025. I have all of your stories for your rush hour ride home. And on today's episode, we have dog versus Gator. Will the good boy prevail? It will be a good story, so stick around for that. And then Justice for Clayton T. We'll be discussing the upcoming documentary that has been in talks for a long time now, what might come of that. And it is the 1-year anniversary from the date the judge ruled in favor of Clayton Echard in the case the former bachelor had against Laura Owens, the lady who faked a pregnancy with him. I've got that and then more on the Justin Baldoni story, as we've heard from his attorney, Brian Friedman. And now we've got the mainstream media, ABC Nightly News even talking about it. What is next? The big question. And is this PR move by Blake Lively already backfiring? And speaking of backfiring, we've got the move to send Marines to the LA protests, not looking great right now, of course. You don't send your own military on your own people, or do you? I don't know. It's a completely twisted world out there. So I've got thoughts from the governor. Will he be arrested? I mean, wild times indeed. And then more on Greta Thunberg and her deportation from Israel. Boy, that escalated quickly. All these stories and more, it's happening right now on The Rush. Well, how about this for the goodest of stories for the goodest of boys? Family dog's rough treatment by Gator. He fought off the beast despite brutal injuries. So it looks like he took some chomps to the shoulder and to the mouth, but a family dog had the scare of a lifetime. Yanked into an alligator's jaws right from his Florida backyard. He somehow made it out alive. His injuries, nothing short of brutal. So again, I'm not going to share the photos, but German Shepherd named Zeus, he had a fractured jaw, but he's made it out and we're happy for him. And boy, you should see what the alligator looks like, right, folks? All right. And by the way, just another example why I might be the best husband out there. I am in line to buy theater tickets for my wife to see Harry Potter and the Cursed Child. This is the most Hufflepuff thing I could do. All day long, I've been 60,000th in line. I'm down to 52,552. Does anybody have any connections to the theater in New York City? Can you help me out this Christmas season? All right, let's dive into several years long battle. Clayton Echard, I don't know how else to put this, received some ill-timed blowskis from a lady named Laura Owens. A week later, she claimed she was pregnant with his twins. It's been several years. They battled it out in court, and now she's got 7 felony charges against her. From the Justice for Clayton subreddit, a beautifully crafted tribute to the 1-year anniversary of the June 10th hearing where Laura Michelle Owens' lies were exposed for all to see. So here's to June 10th, to the day lies collapsed under cross-examination, to Craig and Deandra, who dismantled every lie like it was a game of legal Jenga, and they never lost a piece, to Judge Mata, who cut straight through the BS with calm authority and unshakable discernment, and to Laura and David for putting on a show we'll never forget, mostly because it was so bad. Now, we were there. I did a 6-hour live stream. Of course, I rented a van, and we covered this thing because not many other people would. The media didn't touch this story until it got juicy, which again is just, goes to show the monetary structure of mainstream media right now. Not good. The investigative journalist element is dead. It is dead for stories that aren't national stories, right? It's dead on the local level. But here's the moment where we learned of Laura Owens' lies we literally watched it from the van as it was happening in Maricopa County. And just here's a clip a whole year later. Have a listen. Police escort. Of course, Laura Owens' attorney called the police on one of the witnesses. There wasn't enough time there. Crazy aggressive speed at examining these witnesses. Very credible. Clayton, of course. So this was, again, a year ago. They only had a 2-hour trial, and we covered it, but we didn't get the judge's decision at the time. I think it was a week or two later where the judge ruled in favor of Clayton Echard. She's forced to pay him all of these fees. Of course, she hasn't paid a penny. She took it to the appeals. She lost. They want to take it to the Supreme Court. It's like, good grief, lady, you're not that important. But the attorneys, the county attorney, was the judge said, we think you should investigate this. And then we put together a campaign to send letters from literally all over the world for them to like really check this out. We had a lot of victim statements from people saying, we need to make sure you can't just get away with lying like this. Now, we also have to remember, Laura Owens lied about this fictitious journalist she created named Chase J. Jones. She used Chase J. Jones to harass me, to try to defame Clayton Echard, and when I filed a subpoena to Chase J. Jones to get some more information out of them, Chase J. Jones tried to quash the subpoena. What does this mean? Does this mean Laura Owens in California, not only problems in Arizona, but in California, she faked somebody through the legal system? What can I do to pursue damages against her? I really don't know. Either way, the update that I wanted to give you guys with regard to a documentary over this crazy story, I can't tell you that Netflix is picking it up. I can't tell you that it'll be on HBO Max or that it'll be on Hulu. But what I can tell you is this: multiple teams of people have come together. All of the characters are involved, from Clayton to myself, and I'm even hearing Laura Owens. She might have to do her interview from prison at this point. We'll have to see. But all I've ever wanted is for people to share their stories. I don't even need creative input. I'll share mine. You do with it what you want. Do I think we have a crushing story to tell? Absolutely. And if you're new to this, if you follow me from Justin Baldoni and you don't know what the heck's going on with it, I'm here to tell you, buckle the F up, because you haven't seen anything yet. It's an absolute wild ride. All right, let's move into Justin Baldoni. It was a crushing day yesterday for him as his defamation lawsuit was dismissed by the judge. What does this mean moving forward? It looks like ABC News actually has been covering the story. Welcome to the show.
Today's opinion is a total victory and a complete vindication for Blake Lively, along with those that Justin Baldoni and the Wayfarer parties dragged into their retaliatory lawsuit, including Ryan Reynolds. What do we know about the high-profile lawsuit's dismissal now?
Kira, I mean, this opinion from the judge, 132 pages, so we just were able to break some of it down. So let's start off with the beginning. Baldoni and his studio Wayfarer claimed that Lively, assisted by her husband Ryan Reynolds and Leslie Sloan, her publicist, stole the film from him, threatened to refuse to promote the film, and then threatened to attack Baldoni and Wayfarer in the press if Blake Lively did not get creative control over the film. So as a result of that claim, Baldoni and Wayfarer claimed this was civil extortion. The judge decided, nope, we're throwing this out. The judge saying any alleged actions don't constitute civil extortion. The judge saying California law of civil extortion is when a plaintiff gives a defendant money or property under threat and tries to get it returned.
And what's interesting with this is that in today's world, maybe the laws need to change because extortion comes in different levels. So the sort of general claim of extortion is like when money's exchanged. But Blake Lively promoting the film is greater than money. That's the social currency of her endorsing the film. So that's where, I don't know, I mean, it's too late now, but to make the claim that it was an extortion, you go, well, how isn't it? It's like it's a breach of contract at the very least if she's supposed to promote the film, but she's refusing to, even though Justin Baldoni's edit was rated higher than hers. I mean, it's very interesting, this side of the story, because it's got nothing to do with harassment, even though that was her initial claim.
So the court actually said what Lively did was legally permissible hard bargaining or renegotiation of working conditions. So that's why that got thrown out. The next aspect of Justin's lawsuit was
hard bargaining. I won't do this unless you do that. I don't know. I feel like extortion kind of feels like hard bargaining.
Defamation aspect, saying that Lively, Ryan Reynolds, and the publicist defamed him. The judge said, based on the facts presented, Ryan and the publicist thought they were true based on the information available to them. So the defamation part got thrown out. Now to the New York Times aspect of this lawsuit. Wayfarer and Baldoni claimed defamation against the New York Times for that viral article called "We Can Bury Anyone Inside a Hollywood Smear Campaign." The judge wrote, the alleged facts indicate the Times reviewed the available evidence and reported, perhaps in a dramatized manner, what it believed to have happened. The Times had no obvious motive to favor Lively's version of events. So, Kira, the judge threw that out as well. So this is obviously delivering a huge blow to Justin Baldoni.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly is. Now, Baldoni's side says the war ain't over, folks. We got a lot left. And those amended complaints will be due on June 23rd. We'll probably go live when they come in. But up next, we're going to hear from our good pal, Canadian, I believe she's Canadian, Ashley Briana Eve, as she says how Blake Lively's mask is slipping in real time while on her victory lap. That story next. Well, let's get to branding expert Ashley Briana Eve. Here's her thoughts on this victory lap by Blake Lively.
Blake is glitching out in real time with her fake branding versus who she really is. My name's Ashley. I'm in branding and marketing for over 15 years, specializing in the intersection of psychology used in branding and marketing. So I talk a lot about archetypes. Blake has traditionally been the ruler archetype. And what I've been talking about is as she's progressed through this lawsuit, she has been leaning more into the innocent archetype. And you can see it in those images here. And I literally just recorded in a reel saying it is going to be very difficult for a ruler to wear the mask of an innocent much longer. You want to pick an archetype that is as close to who you are or is exactly who you are. So it's just natural. It's authentic. You don't have to keep up the act because your mask.
Yeah, it's kind of like if you're a bitch, pick the archetype of being a bitch. Is Ashley a bitch an archetype? I don't know, but I'm just saying, like, be transparent, be who you are. That way you won't come off as a liar if you have a bad day and the mask falls. Like me, this is who I am. You get me. Call me what you want. This is what I got. You get me? Some days I'm a little hyper energized, but my archetype is Starbucks Goldberg. That's my archetype. Woo!
Will slip, and her mask is starting to slip. And the public is noticing. She was heavily leaning into this like childlike smile, this image of being small and innocent and vulnerable. And we could see it in a lot of her branding that came out recently. And when she was posing on the red carpet last night in her victory lap is what the headlines are. Bad PR move, Blake. Cannot believe you let your team or you made the decision to post that and send that out. But anyway, people noticed that her smug smile is back. That's what some of the comments are saying. And you can see it. It's very different. And when you look at Blake's branding prior to the lawsuits ramping up, almost all of her pictures have her looking chin up, looking down at the camera. It's that ruler archetype.
So this is very interesting. Again, if you're kind of into the whole deep look as to what they're doing with their branding, it seems like Ashley, speaking of branding, she does a great job branding herself here as an expert when it comes to how people act. I don't know. What's my archetype? Needing a haircut? Is that one? All right. So everybody's talking about it. Good Morning America this morning discusses the lawsuit that was thrown out. Have a listen.
But the judge did leave an opening for him to refile.
Yeah, a limited opening, right? Let's be clear. With regard to the defamation claim, he can't refile it. With regard to the civil extortion claim, he can't refile it. He can refile, the judge is saying, some of the contractual claims. In effect saying, one of the arguments here is that Ryan Reynolds forced WME to fire Justin Baldoni. Well, show the court some of the contracts. Give us a little bit more of the evidence. Refile this in a different way. And the court will then evaluate it again, meaning we'll decide whether that case can move forward. And remember, of course, Justin Baldoni can also appeal this if he decides to do it.
We've been talking about this for quite some time now. And previously you said that you thought this would go to trial.
Yeah.
Has this changed your thinking?
It could, right? This is the only window to avoid a trial, in my view, because Justin Baldoni's the one, I think, who won't give this up, right? He's the one whose career has ended. Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds are moving on, and they're continuing to do what they do. For Baldoni, losing this is a big deal, really big. So if this case goes away, from his perspective, is it possible Blake Lively would decide to drop the case altogether? It's possible. So there's a little bit more of a window here to potentially ending this, but I don't see this ending really soon. I think Baldoni is going to try to at least do something.
I agree, but no, you could be so deflated. You could see this hurt your family, and you could say enough is enough. But he's got that Steve Sarowitz money, and like you said, he's got no career. There is no, and you might say, no, we'll support him. I'm telling you right now, unless he self-finances every project without distributor, I mean, it's going to be an uphill battle unless he fights this and wins this in court, which I recommend he goes to do. All right, let's move it away from that and go to some other worldly news. Day 4 of the LA protest against ICE. Now, this is a big deal. We're noticing Glendale has canceled their contract with an ICE detention facility. Glendale is part of Los Angeles, of course, and that's a big deal. So LA is not playing ball. There are threats to arrest the governor if he gets in the way. There's the National Guard, which has been called without the governor's approval, which is funny because when the National Guard was needed during the January 6th insurrection several years ago, Trump said, well, he didn't have the authority. He was waiting for Nancy Pelosi, right? All of that. And now he has the authority when it's convenient for him to call the National Guard, even though everybody is basically saying that is escalating the problem.
There's been a shift here in the last few minutes. The police officers just issued a warning saying that this area has now been declared an unlawful assembly zone, which means anyone here can be arrested. And the protesters have moved out quite quickly, but police have really mobilised and it's unclear where they're heading. We do believe that further up the street there may be a gathering of people, but police are certainly on alert. Just a short time ago we saw a bunch of police officers arrive in vehicles and get out of their cars in full riot gear. At this stage, from our position, it's difficult to tell you exactly what's going on. But
all right, so there has been arrests made. There have been rubber bullets fired, literally at journalists. And now we have Gavin Newsome tweeting this. You sent your troops here without fuel, food, water, or a place to sleep. Here they are, being forced to sleep on the floor, piled on top of one another. If anyone is treating our troops disrespectfully, it is you, Donald Trump. And that is a photo again. I'm assuming this is the Marines and not yes, this is the U.S. Marines here. He sent 6, I believe 5, somewhere between 500 to 700 of them have been sent to Los Angeles, but without any of the infrastructure, because obviously Marines are not meant to be sent to domestic locations, right? Unless there's some wild insurrection war type thing happening, when in fact that's not the case. There's, I was going on a walk with my baby and my wife yesterday, and someone was like, hey, what's going on in LA? And I said, listen, as crazy as it might seem on TV, LA is 40 square miles, just a city. It's a giant city. It's sprawling. There are protests that are happening. There will be instigators. There are bad people. They don't speak for the majority of the protesters. So just because you see a couple burned cars and there are riots and things being thrown, just because you see that and the agitators that exist, don't let that take away from the root of the protest, which is the unlawful kidnapping and removal of people without due process. And so much so that now we have Trump said that he would support if the governor of California was arrested. It's just a wild time. Here's Pod Save America interviewing Governor Gavin Newsome.
I can't believe I'm asking this, but if you actually are arrested, is there a plan for what happens?
You know what's so absurd about that question is I've actually thought about it. And the fact that I'm actually answering it by saying I thought about it, and not only did I think about it, that we've already processed what that may look like, that if they do get a federal warrant to arrest me, that the very act, if I chose to fly back to Sacramento from LA, could be grounds then for them actually having cause to arrest. The fact that we're even having that conversation with our folks and have had that conversation with our folks in the United States in 2025 says everything you need to know about who's in the White House right now.
Listen, the way I see it is this. This sort of mandate by the government to create this ragtag team of ICE officials to come in and rip people out of restaurants they're working in and rip moms away. There were literally ICE agents in one case waiting outside a birthing suite. After a woman gave birth, they then separated her from her baby and arrested her, detained her. This is insanity. And this has such a long-term effect on the psyche and the literal aura of our country. The mass sort of vicarious sadness and frustration and anger that's coming out because of this. So it's no surprise that after all of that, we're finally seeing the result, the volcanic result of people saying enough is enough. You created this problem, we're upset by it, And now because there is civil unrest, immediately Trump says, bring in the National Guard, knowing full well that by passing Gavin Newsome, by passing a governor who's the essential top control of that state, they're agitating even more. By bringing in the Marines to create a scenario that's worse. This is incredible footage for Trump to use to say, see, we needed to do this, when in fact the entire protest and riot was kind of caused by the actions of ICE in the first place. Here is a response. I can't believe I'm saying this. Here is a response, a reporter asking the question of the Australian Prime Minister about a reporter being shot with a rubber bullet in Los Angeles.
Prime Minister, you've seen the vision of Lauren Tomasi, my colleague and friend who was shot while doing her job covering the situation in Los Angeles yesterday. If you get a chance to speak with Donald Trump in the next 7 days, will you raise that incident? And what were your thoughts when you saw what happened?
Well, I spoke with Lauren this morning, and she's going okay. She's pretty resilient, I've got to say.
These Australians, she's going okay. No, she got shot with a bullet, and it wasn't a random crossfire. The police officer turned towards her, pointed at her, and shot her with a bullet.
But that footage was horrific. That was the footage of an Australian journalist doing what journalists do at their very best, which is to go into an environment that's not comfortable, but where in LA it is not unreasonable to think that she would not have been targeted with a rubber bullet.
And again, it could have been a way worse scenario, and these journalists are needed to show the transparency out there. Here's a reporter getting detained by LAPD during a live broadcast. Have a listen to this.
1 second, John. Hold on. I want to. Jason, what's going on? I hear you. Am I seeing Jason Carroll being? What happened, Jason?
I am being detained. Laura. I'm not being arrested. Correct, officers?
Did you hear what he told you?
No.
Can we get these officers a microphone to hear? He says he's being detained while speaking. There's a moment. CNN reporter was detained by LAPD during a live broadcast.
You can't come back. Right
Okay.
Because then if you come back, then you go. We're good right here.
Okay.
Okay, please.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, officer.
And then he has to say, oh, thank you, officers. Thank you for not arresting me for doing my dang job here. Wild stuff. All right, so we'll continue to cover the protests. In other news, Greta Thunberg is the first activist from the Madeleine to be deported on flight to France. Here's what's so funny about this. She's being deported after trying to send aid to Gaza. Was it a publicity stunt? Partially. It's not like they had a giant cruise ship full of aid. It was a very small sailing vessel. But that was the point of the mission, to kind of show that they were just trying to help out and they were being denied that. So here's the a video of her on a flight being sent to France. But why is she getting deported from a country that she wasn't even trying to go into in the first place, that being Israel? And you have to remember, any amount of, and again, I'm happy to say this every single time we cover the story, any amount of criticism I have is for the Israeli government and not the people. Therefore, it's not anti-Semitic to question the government that is got a sea blockade of Gaza. Now, they've had this for 20 years, and we've continued to discuss this. But what I won't stand for is people saying that Greta Thunberg is a coward or she's just doing this for publicity. She's doing more actively than most people will ever do in their life. So many keyboard warriors saying, well, she's this, she's that. You're the coward if you're just on your computer saying how you would do it. She sees a problem, whether you agree with it or not, and she's actively using all of the clout she has, all of the name recognition she has to sail into a very dangerous situation. And you might wonder, oh, is it really that dangerous? Well, I've had to learn a lot about this recently, but the Gaza flotilla raid of 2010, on May 31st of 2010, 6 civilian ships of the Gaza Freedom Flotilla were raided by Israel in international waters in the Mediterranean Sea. 9 of the flotilla passengers were killed during the raid, with 30 wounded. Now, this is not up for debate. This happened. The Israeli government says that they were operating in self-defense, But why would they be operating in self-defense in international waters when this flotilla is just trying to break a sea blockade of the Gaza Strip? So it's no surprise. I mean, people were killed. And when they did forensics on the bodies, there were close-range 9mm bullets between people's eyeballs in the back of their head. And there were firsthand accounts by witnesses 2 feet away saying, we saw this happen. This was an insane story that I'm only finding out about 15 years later. So before you decide to tell me that Greta Thunberg is just doing this for publicity, just understand she was willing to put her life on the line to get some baby formula to starving babies. Let that one sink in for you before you hear what's next.
Well, she's a strange person. She's a young, angry person. I don't know if it's real anger. It's hard to believe, actually, but I saw what happened. She's certainly different. Anger management.
And by different, we're hearing now from our president, who was suffering bone spurs when it was his time to fight for his country, when it was Donald Trump's time to serve his country. And by the way, I get a little emotional talking about this. My father served multiple tours in Vietnam, ended up dying with post-traumatic stress disorder and Agent Orange in his lungs, an exfoliant used by our own government, which ended up poisoning a lot of people, both on our side and on the other side. While that was happening, Donald Trump was able to get his daddy to write a check to a doctor to say he has bone spurs. And he has the audacity to tell us that Greta Thunberg is the one with issues. We need more Greta Thunbergs out there willing to put their name on the line and their life on the line to do what's right. And honestly, it's sickening. It's sickening to see that guys like him are rewarded for their abuse of power, for their rewriting of history. Anger management. When somebody like Greta Thunberg, what's she, early 20s? Is just knowing that by having her name attached to that ship, she might be saving the lives of the other people. Make it make sense, folks. Make it make sense. I hope we're all getting educated as we watch these stories play out. Sunlight's the greatest disinfectant. We'll continue to share these stories, and I appreciate all the support. I've read your comments. I know a lot of people have found our channel through silly means, whether it's an All-American Rejects video, whether it's the, some of these different cases, but there are big things going on out there, and I appreciate the rallying of support as we continue to grow and continue to share. All right, we'll be back in the morning as we are twice a day, every day. We'll see you then. Don't forget to subscribe. I'm Dave, and this is The Rush.